Hi everyone. Well, yes, it is already time for us to meet for a new season of short, effective news relating to cyclone activity in our regions. Here is the very first weather point of this 2025 hurricane season. Once again, and like every year, some weather forecasting organizations try to anticipate the number of cyclonic phenomena likely to form in the Atlantic zone. To do this, specialists observe and analyze key environmental parameters. These include the prevailing climate context in the Pacific, the surface temperatures of the Atlantic Ocean, and the activity of the African monsoon. Concerning the surface temperatures of the North Atlantic, particularly in the tropical and subtropical region of this ocean basin, it turns out that, although not reaching the values of the last 2 years at the same period, the temperatures recorded in this maritime domain remain globally higher than normal, which makes it a fuel naturally conducive to the information and development of tropical cyclone phenomena. We will still note a slight slowdown in ocean warming in the area between Africa and the Lesser Antilles, which may be partly related to the predominance of the sandy brown under this region. However, this cooling may only be temporary, so we won't dwell on it. The second big variable analyzed by scientists is related to what is happening in the Pacific Ocean. Indeed, the center and east of this ocean are subject to an alternation between phases of warming and phases of cooling. The warming phases correspond to the El Niño phenomenon, while the cooling phases are the expression of the La Niña phenomenon. As a reminder, when the El Niño phase predominates in the Pacific, cyclone activity decreases in the Atlantic because of the unfavorable winds at altitude that this phenomenon accentuates in our regions. In contrast, when the Pacific region shifts into phase El Niña, due to the anomalous cooling of these waters, the cyclonic activity in the Atlantic basin tends to increase. Since the paragraph favors atmospheric conditions globally more conducive to the cyclogenesis of our geographical area. However, with regard to the réunion climatic context in the Pacific, specialists favor the Salon forecasts, which we would not be subject to the El Niño phenomenon nor to the El Alinea phenomenon during the entire cyclonic period 2025. This phase of neutrality is currently the one with the most probability of materialization, knowing that a neutral situation in the Pacific, added to a more normal Atlantic Ocean, will tend to favor a more active cyclone season over our ocean basin. Finally, in its activity forecast report, the NOAA mentioned that the African monsoon could be more active this year, which is an important parameter to take into account since this meteorological phenomenon is the main source of disturbances that can evolve into a cyclonic phenomenon when environmental conditions change. Allow it. A more active African monsoon can therefore potentially mean more vigorous tropical waves during the season. For all the reasons discussed in this bulletin, the major forecasting agencies here have a hurricane season that could prove to be more active than average, with up to 19 phenomena baptized for the most pessimistic projections. However, the actual achievement of today's forecasts may also depend on the frequency and intensity of haze, sand, and dry air episodes, at least for the first part of the season. While waiting 10, see more clearly, it is appropriate as every year to show anticipation and preparation in order to cross this cyclone season as serenely as possible. The Uragan.com Association also relays excellent advice to this effect, particularly on its Instagram account. As for the situation on that day, the very first NRC monitoring map did not mention any risk of cyclonic development in the short and medium term. The atmospheric conditions prevailing over the entire Atlantic basin are still hostile, in particular via the generalized presence of powerful winds, to which is added in places a thick brown sand drying the atmosphere, a result concerning the region between the anchor of the Lesser Antilles and the African continent. The intertropical convergence zone, as well as the tropical wave leaving Africa, evolves in an environment that limits or reduces the more stormy activity of these two weather systems. It is therefore a hot, dry, and foggy weather that awaits us again for this beginning of the week. In the meantime, that's all for today. Have a great day and see you soon.